One of the major themes of the Bible is that of being in exile. Right from the very beginning, Adam and Eve alienate themselves from God and find themselves in exile, longing somehow to come back to the Garden of Paradise. In the time of Noah, we see once again the human race in exile, and the flood comes. It is the ark where Noah, his family, and the animals come to be saved from the exile. We see it again in Egypt, where the Jews are in slavery, in exile. And Moses leads them out of exile across the sea to the promised land. And we have it again in our readings today. It's at the end of the Babylonian captivity. The Jews once again are in exile. But now the exile is coming to an end. In the words of Psalm 126, that they are like men dreaming coming out of exile. Their mouths are full of laughter and their tongue rejoicing. They're coming home. And the first reading from Baruch talks about it. Speaks about how they can put off the mantle of misery and suffering. They're coming out of exile. They can put on the robe of rejoicing. And Baruch goes on and turns towards Jerusalem. Jerusalem, stand up. Look eastward to Babylon. Your children are coming home. May every valley be filled and every hill lowered, so there will be a highway for the exiles to come back home. And even we have the reading of Paul. Paul himself is imprisoned, and he writes to the Philippians. Even though he is in exile, not spiritually but physically, he writes to them to rejoice because they are near the Lord. They have the Lord. And then we have the gospel today. It starts out by listing all the public figures of the day. Tiberius Caesar, the most powerful man in the world. Pontius Pilate, the most powerful man in Judea who represents Caesar. And we have King Herod's two sons, Herod and Philip. And they are also part of the oppressors of the Jewish people, taxing them beyond belief. And then, of course, we have Annas and Caiaphas, priests. However, they are Roman collaborators. All these public officials are like oppressors, putting the people, even though they're in their homeland, putting them into exile by an occupational army and by political corruption. God doesn't speak to any of these political officials, any of these public servants. The word of God comes to John the Baptist. And what does John the Baptist say? Prepare the way of the Lord. The Messiah is going to come. And a definitive definition Messiah is one to lead us out of exile. To lead us out of the exile not only physically, geographically, politically, but spiritually. Prepare the way, lower every hill, fill up every valley, so that a highway can be made, a highway to come out of the exile and enter into freedom. And Jesus Christ, of course, is this highway. He will bring them out of exile as the Messiah. And today we look at the world. The world, in a way, is an exile from God. They not only deny God in so many parts of the world, as they act against him. They do not respect human life. They do not respect freedom. They do not respect, as our Declaration of Independence, the freedom to pursue happiness according to your own way. The world indeed is still in exile. And then we look into our own lives and we find out in some ways we are in exile spiritually. We are separated from God. But Jesus is the highway. He is the smooth road that we can follow to come out of exile, to put off the robe of misery and slavery, and put on the mantle of freedom and joy. One of the ways during Advent that we can do this is by the traditional way of the Catholic Church of the sacrament of reconciliation, making a good confession during Advent, somehow filling up the valleys in our own lives and lowering the hills to prevent us from coming to be with Christ, to be united with Christ, to return once again to a paradise that Adam and Eve left. A paradise that's based upon joy, based upon peace, based upon love. That is the highway that John the Baptist proclaims. But first of all, we must admit that we make mistakes at times. Can we overcome those mistakes and get on to the highway?